You might have already watched the video on this style of partial fractions. This is where things get a tiny bit fiddlier, but it's still fairly achievable for us all right now. I think maybe just remembering in the long term how the structure works for a question like this. So for example, it should be a over x plus 1, first possible denominator, b over x plus 1 squared, and c over x plus 2. Okay, I actually think the video did a reasonably good example of explaining why we need both the x plus 1 and the x plus 1 squared. So at this point, I'm probably not going to bother trying to explain that any further. Okay, the key really here is three things. The first one is understanding the original setup if they don't give you that. The second one is understanding what to multiply through by. Okay, so we need to multiply through by these effectively three brackets, not these 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, if you get that wrong, it makes it a lot more difficult to get right if you can at all. So I'm going to multiply here by x plus 1 squared and x plus 2. And the same on this side, x plus 1 squared and x plus 2. Okay. So, find my black pen again. So obviously 3x plus 5 is going to be left on the left. Identity. And the first one is probably one of the harder ones to get right. So we're definitely going to have an x plus 2. I think there's no doubt about that. So multiply this. Because we're multiplying by effectively x plus 1 twice, the first of those is going to cancel this denominator, but we're also going to need to have an x plus 1 that's left over. Again, the order of these three doesn't really matter, but if you write them in this order, you will get used to a certain pattern that happens. So you have to just be aware, if they're in a different order, the same kind of thing will happen, but it won't happen in quite the same way. Right, so again, should be a bit more straightforward this time. So that and this are going to cancel out, so we're going to get left with x plus 2 with the b. And then finally, c, the x plus 2 is going to cancel out, and then we're just going to get left with the x plus 1 squared. Okay? Now, if we think about trying to find the letter A, first of all, scrambling around while I'm looking for my pen there, my blue pen, we'd need to get rid of B and C. Now, B and C do not share any common values, okay? So we're going to struggle to get rid of both of these at the same time and nothing else. So we'll leave that for a second. B, if you want to find B, we need to get rid of A and C. So they both seem to share this x plus 1 that B does not have. So that would be negative 1. And finally, C, if we're looking for C, we want to get rid of A and B. They share the x plus 2. C doesn't have that, so that's negative 2. So there'll always be a case of 2 that you can find quite easily, and the other one which doesn't yet have a value that we can see. Okay, what we're actually going to do for the third one, but we're going to do it a little bit late, I'm going to do it last, is I'm just going to pick any number that's not already been used. So I can't use negative 1 or negative 2. I'd normally use 0. Obviously, if the x is in here, we couldn't use that, so you can't use one that's relevant, but they would already be there. 1's another suitable answer, just an easy number to sub in. So I'm going to choose 0, but I'll come back to that a little bit later. So I'll start with B, subbing in negative 1. So negative 1, so negative 3 plus 5 is 2. Again, you can use a calculator, but I'm confident in my abilities for now. So we're looking for B. So again, I know that A and C are going to cancel, so I'm not going to bother wasting time with those. Negative 1 plus 2, so that's just 1. So 1B. So B effectively is 2. Negative 2, so negative 6 plus 5, so that's negative 1. If you ever go wrong, it's probably because your calculations are going slightly wrong here. Again, I've already worked out that A and B are going to cancel, so I'm not going to waste my time there. They're going to be 0. Got to be very careful with the squared one. People often go wrong with this squared. So negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, but we're going to square that. It's going to be positive 1, so that's C. Quite often that goes wrong when it's like when it comes to be 2 or 3 or 4, and people just don't square the number. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these. Oh, a bit high there on my camera. I'm going to use these. I'm trying to write this while looking at it through the camera. It's not looking very well. So I'm going to use these in the equation for A. Okay, so I'm going to use the 2 and the negative 1 when I use this 0. Otherwise, I'm going to have 3 unknowns, which I don't want. So first of all, when I sub in 0, that's going to go, so it's just going to be 5. We don't know A. Very careful again when you sub 0 in, because it's not going to all become 0, it's just that 0 and that 0, so it's going to be 2. Alright, A times 2, I should have written 2A really, would have been it quicker. There we go. B I know to be 2, so I'm going to put that in as 2. 0, so that's going to be times 2. C is negative 1. And 0 in their square, so 0 plus 1, so that's going to be 1. Okay, so I've now got an equation 5 equals 2a plus 4 minus 1 equals 5. Okay, so 5 equals 2a, 4 take away 1 is plus 3, and then take that off, so a looks like it's going to equal to 1. Okay, so it doesn't, as I said, depending on the order these three are written, okay, it won't always be A that you have to go back and find later. Okay, it could be either B or C or obviously A as we've got here. I'm just going to write it in the correct form at the end to finish off. So I'm going to have 1 over x plus 1 for my first fraction. B was 2, so 2 over x plus 1 squared. And then take away 1 over x plus 2. Okay, and that should be my final answer. Again, haven't checked the work solutions yet myself, but hopefully that is right.